In a world where every drop of water is precious, people are forced to carry out their daily tasks without any water. The poor suffer while the rich remain unaffected by the crisis. While the rich enjoy plentiful water, the poor are left in desperate conditions. Private companies extract underground water and supply it to wealthy cities, leaving the rural poor to struggle. Among the poor are the Holmes family, Ernest, Catherine, their daughter Mary, and son Jerome. They struggle daily to survive in their impoverished village. Ernest, who once had a thriving farm, can no longer cultivate crops due to the lack of water. Despite his pleas to the government, no one listens. Determined, Ernest tries to dig for water himself. One day, thieves attempt to steal Ernest's water extraction machine. Ernest arrives just in time, and in a tense confrontation, he shoots and kills the thieves. To protect his equipment, Ernest goes to the waterman, who works for a private company, installing large machines for extracting water. Ernest pleads with Max, but is told to speak to the boss, who is unlikely to help on his way home. Ernest's donkey gets injured and is forced to be put down. This tragic event adds to Ernest's woes. Ernest buys an old robot at an auction. Though it's not much, it's a small relief and a potential help for future work. Catherine is bedridden in the hospital due to an accident. Ernest can't afford the necessary equipment to bring her home. Outside the hospital, Ernest meets his friend Bobby, who is also struggling despite his own water shortage. Ernest gives Bobby what little he has. Phylum, who is having an affair with Ernest's daughter. Mary demands the robot. Ernest refuses. Knowing Phylum's intentions are not good, Mary, frustrated with their harsh life, argues with Ernest about leaving with Phylum. Mary, frustrated with their harsh life, argues with Ernest about leaving with Phylum. Despite Ernest's pleas, Mary remains determined. Ernest attempts to find water elsewhere fail, as his field is damaged by the installation of more machines. Max and other watermen, mistaking Ernest for a thief, attack him. Phylum, the real thief, tricks Ernest into drinking liquor and frames him for stealing supplies. Phylum orchestrates a scene where Ernest is killed by the robot. Jerome is heartbroken and angry, mistakenly believing the robot caused his father's death. Phylum pretends to care for Jerome, hoping to gain his trust. He continues to deceive and exploit the situation for his benefit. Phylum goes to the watermen and talks to them about sending water to Ernest's land. Caleb laughs at his idea, but gets defensive when Phylum blames him for Ernest's death. Phylum also shows him a knife with Caleb's name that was found with Ernest's body. Scared to be accused, Caleb agrees to divert water to their field. With the new water supply, Ernest's farm begins to thrive again. Crops start growing and there's hope for the future. A few months later, they are fully grown. Phylum gets married to Mary and currently lives at Ernest's home with Jerome and Mary. One day, his father Sam, with some men from the bank, approaches their house, threatening to take the land because of Ernest's debt. The debt is too much for Phylum to pay, so he takes the machine with him and approaches his friend Robbie. That night, he knows about Robbie's intention to sell his child, so he persuades Robbie to come with him, just to see how much a baby can be worth. However, when they reach there, Robbie realizes that Phylum has secretly made a deal with the people. To sell his baby, the people try to take the baby away. Robbie resisted and is shot dead by Phylum. This causes a shootout between the dealers, and Phylum runs away with the money. However, the robot Sim is shot and damaged. This activates the auto mode in the machine, which causes it to return back to its manufacturer, Calvin Hoyman. The following day, Phylum pays the bank from the money he sold the child with. Jerome assumes that the money came by selling Sim, so no one suspects anything. In the following scene, we see Sim limping its way back to Calvin, who lives across the border. Calvin calls the number inscribed on Sim and reaches Holmes' residence. He talks to Jerome about the machine coming back to him, which shocks Jerome because Phylum had told him he sold it to Robbie. Jerome asks Phylum if Robbie sold Sim's parts, and it's somehow made to the owner. But Phylum gets annoyed at him for the question and dismisses it. Then he tells them he is going to meet his mother that evening, but instead he plans to cross the border to meet Calvin. the manufacturer of sim later. He reaches the border, but the guard stops him because he is too young to cross it. A girl named Anna calls him over and tells him she knows a way. He can go to the other side. In exchange for money, she puts him in a vehicle with chickens and sends him over. They meet again at the other side and separate. Jerome then goes to meet Calvin. There Calvin shows him all the functions of the machine. He also shows that the machine's eyes are cameras that were made to capture the slope for reforestation. The camera has captured all that the machine has seen. Jerome plays the recordings and sees his time with Ernest. As he goes through it, he is horrified to see that Flem was the one who killed Ernest. That day after Ernest had gained consciousness, Flem tied him to the machine and set its destination to the waterman. The machine had dragged and injured but alive Ernest to his death. By the end of the video, tears rolled down Jerome's eyes. In the evening, he returns home but doesn't confront Flem about anything. One day, Flem and Jerome are hunting deers, after which Jerome keeps the rifle with him, hiding it under his bed for the future. At breakfast, Jerome tells Flem about Robbie calling him. Flem is surprised and accuses Jerome of lying because he knows Robbie is already dead. Later, Flem receives a letter written by Jerome as Robbie. The letter asks Flem to meet Robbie at the same place he has killed Ernest. He is confused by this, but he decides to find out whether Robbie is still alive. Later at night, Flem tells a pregnant Mary that he has to go out to sell something. Mary wishes him luck and asks him to come back soon. When Flem reaches the place, he calls for Robbie as he walks. He falls down a pit and breaks his legs. He lies there calling for help when Jerome appears in front of him. Seeing him there, Flem takes a sigh of relief and asks him for help. However, Jerome stands there with a rock in his hand. Flem realizes that he knows everything that happened and apologizes to him, claiming it was just an accident. He begs him to spare his life for Mary and their child, but Jerome doesn't listen. He points the rifle at Flem and shoots him dead. It has been 2 days since the event. Mary is worried about her husband, but Jerome asks her to wait a little more. He has decided to keep Mary in the dark about both Ernest and Flem's death. Mary suggests they bring their mother home because they now have the money to afford the ringing system she lives in. The movie ends as Jerome erases all the video memory from Sam. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.